Welcome everyone. We're going to start here in a few minutes. I see that people are logging in, so that's great. Hey, if you want to click on the chat on the very bottom, you can click on the all panelists and attendees and you can chat with the group. So I'd love to hear who's on and where you're from. So if you want to, oh, Lauren has joined us from New Zealand. Hi Lauren, so great to have you. And let's see, we have Lauren. Griffin is joining us. Wonderful. Hi, Griffin. And Griffin is joining us from Buffalo, New York. All right. Oh, we have Tony from New Zealand. Hi, Tony. So good to have you. Hi, Trisha from sunny Sedona, Arizona. Wonderful. Hi, Chris. Great to see you. Well, yeah, I see you. Hi, Nick from Honduras. Boy, we are represented here. And we have, it's going fast, Gia's here. Cornelia's here. Wonderful. Keep logging in, just tell us where you're from and how your day is going. And hey, have any of you been to our Bolivia home? Hi, Tempe. Good to see you. Serena's here. She's been to Bolivia. Is it as beautiful as it looks? Oh, Chris is answering that, saying, yes, it is beautiful. Here's a fun fact for you all. In Bolivia, 40% of all the animal and plant life on the planet can be found in Bolivia. I'm excited to go. I have a couple more fun facts I'm going to share with you. Let's see, we have Griffin, Catherine has joined us, Peter has joined us from Uganda. Wonderful, very cool. Hey, here's another fun fact for everyone. Did you know that the dolphins in the Amazon are pink? I'm a big fan of dolphins. I did not know they were pink ones. Violet has joined us from Massachusetts, and you work with the DR Home. Cool. And we've got quite a few people. Right now, it's moving up to 68. 69, we've got a ton of people. Mark Miller is here from Illinois, former volunteer in Honduras. Welcome. Anna's here. Let's see, you went to Bolivia last year. Really cool. So is everyone having a great day? It's beautiful here. I'm coming to you from Minneapolis. It's a beautiful day. We don't get a whole lot of them, so it's really nice. Brad has joined us. Wonderful. So you will see this, the slideshow, just sharing some information with you. We will start very soon, in the next minute or so. We're gonna let a few more people join us. Eric from Chicago, welcome. So happy to have you. Kathy has joined us from New Zealand. Welcome. And Trish is saying she can only see the welcome screen. That's okay. We just have this one slide up. You'll see me first in a minute here. So actually, I think we are ready to get started. So I will. All right. Welcome, everyone. And just 1 second, I think we're sharing the screen here. Okay, well, hi, happy afternoon, happy Tuesday here. My name is Molly Goyam. I'm the Chief Development Officer for NPH USA. And on behalf of all the staff here, we hope you and your families are safe and healthy. Welcome to the second episode of the NPH Open Home Series. If you were with us on episode number 1, we visited Honduras and had a lovely conversation with Steve Mahoney, the National Director. Today, we are visiting NPH Bolivia and chatting with their National Director, Tom Kuiper. And Griffin Jones is joining us. He's a former international volunteer for Bolivia. Before we get started, I have a couple housekeeping items I'd like to share with you all. 1, we ask for your patience as the Wi-Fi in Bolivia isn't the most reliable, so fingers crossed. 2, I'm going to explain some very basics of the Zoom webinar platform you're all using this afternoon just to get you a little bit more comfortable with it. During our 45-minute program, we will control which speakers you see and hear. We will be showing you a short video, so you may want to make your Zoom window as large as possible. This can be done by moving your mouse to the top right corner of your Zoom window. This is where the minimize, maximize, and exit icons appear. There will also be a pause as we switch between presenters. There are more icons that appear when you hover your mouse at the bottom of your Zoom window, like chat, Q&A, raise hand. If at any time you would like to ask a question, choose the Q&A button and a new window will appear where you can type your question. We'll be answering several of them at the end of the program. So if you have a comment, please click on the chat like you've been doing. Thank you. We now have a quick video for you to view from NPH Bolivia. So without further ado, welcome to episode number 2 of our Open Home Series. Enjoy.
In the midst of the global pandemic, NPH Bolivia continues to stand strong as a family. For 15 years, the home has protected the lives of the most vulnerable in a country considered one of the poorest and least developed in South America. The coronavirus has doubled in the number of cases in Bolivia in the last 2 weeks. Today, there are over 4,000 cases of the virus within the country at a mortality rate of just over 4%. We are so thankful to share that NPH Bolivia has 0 cases of COVID-19. We are proud and grateful for all the employees, volunteers, and supporters like you that have given our children a safe place to learn, to play, and to grow, now and always. Today, we welcome you into our home. Welcome to NPH Bolivia. Welcome to episode 2 of the Open Home Series, introducing the National Director of NPH Bolivia, Tom Kuiper, and I'm your host for episode 2 and former international NPH Bolivia volunteer, Griffin Jones.
I'm already getting misty-eyed. Tom, come here and save me because I'm already starting to get choked up because I see so many people. I see so many people that we've gotten to know over the last 6 years from all over the world that are huge NPH people, and I'm already getting for Clemson. We haven't even started the open home today. I'm so happy to see everyone from not just the United States and New Zealand who are sponsoring and help facilitate tonight's open home, but from Europe and Canada and people that Tom and I know very well. And I'm here with my good buddy, Tom. So Tom and I knew each other before Tom was the director. He was my partner in crime when we were volunteers in 2014. And then he went to go run the show a few years later. Tom, did you think that when we were volunteers that you would ever end up going back to be the national director?
Actually, yeah. Actually, yeah, absolutely. It was one of the things that I really, was thinking about doing at one time. If I got the opportunity, then maybe, within like 20 years or something. But I really never would be in 3 or 4 years, and that was the case.
So it's been so many years since you and I have had a conversation in English. I don't think we've spoken English to each other in 6 years. And so it feels a little strange. Mine's a little bit rusty, but you're doing pretty good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is that still something that's part of the culture? That's something I'm really curious about, because there were times in my year and a half where, depending on where the volunteers were from and how well we spoke Spanish, that we only spoke Spanish. So I think by the end, when it was yourself, myself, Cornelia, and a few others, we almost only spoke Spanish in the volunteer home. Is it still that way?
Yeah, I think we now have you know, we have 4 American people. So that means that, of course, they speak English with each other. So, so in that sense, I don't think they speak Spanish anymore to each other. Of course, their level is quite okay. It's quite high. So it's maybe not that necessary as it was for us at that time.
Well, it was something that I remember pretty fondly. It's part of how we bonded. So I want to catch up more about what's going on at the home too. And at different times in tonight's episode, we'll share different ways that you all can help. We've got 100 people so far on tonight's open home. Many of you have been helping NPH for years. Some people want to know how they can help now. We'll give you a few different options, some of which might say if you wanted to do a big donation. Others would be different options in the godparent form and a new sponsorships that's available. And then there's always ways you can help that if it's not in the cards for you right now about sharing NPH. So we'll give you those options as we talk about, as we go through what's happening in NPH and what the landscape is like and how that relates to you all. We'll get to your questions at the end. So you'll see that you've got a Q&A. Try to put your questions in that Q&A as opposed to in the chat. And then by the end, we'll try to get to as many as we can. I might group some of them, but we'll try to answer that as many as we can. And then Brad and Nick are also in the chat answering questions via text while Tom and I are conversing. So please make this as interactive as possible. Ask all the questions you want in the Q&A, and then in the chat section, please, if you have a memory or something that relates to what we're talking about, please feel free to share it, because there are so many NPH supporters from all over the world, because they're different in all of the world. So I'm curious, Tom, what are things like with the kids during all this? How are they doing?
The children, that's the beautiful thing. The children are doing well, Griffin. The children are doing well, you know. I think they got used to the new way of living. Like lately, you know, it's different. You know, of course, it's different. But I think the measures that were implemented were really implemented step by step. When the first cases of coronavirus entered in Bolivia, and I'm talking about around March 10th, you know, well, they weren't able to go to class anymore. After that, kind of very fast, we also decided, you know, we asked the kids, you know, after lunch, after the dinner, well, please, you know, we cannot hold hands anymore. You very well remember, Griffin, that the kids always, you know, after the prayer, we hold each other's hands, and, you know, to avoid, you know, that, you know, be kind of affecting each other. And soon after that, we announced that, you know, we cannot eat in the comedor anymore, because we should avoid big groups being together. Shortly after that, we tried to implement the whole social distancing rules. That was quite difficult, because of course they also questioned, you know, why, you know, come on, the coronavirus is not here in the home, what are you talking about? But also, you know, because the whole explosion, like in the movie and in the video, it really duplicated in the last 2 weeks. And the thing is that we really live in the epicenter, in the middle of the outbreak of the coronavirus here in Bolivia. So we decided to also encapsulate all the houses. So that means that the boys from San Jorge are the boys from San Jorge, and the boys from Don Bosco with the boys from Don Bosco, and Madre Teresa the same. So they're not mixing up anymore. And you know, that of course, they're very creative also in their ways of communicating. For example, I heard from one of the tios that one of the girls, they gave it this little, you know, pieces of paper, you know, for example, to the tio and the tia, and, you know, here it is. I want to have communication with my brother, and they find ways to communicate, you know that. So it was very funny. And of course, also there are stories that really kind of, well, they are sad, you know. For example, one of our older boys from Don Bosco in this case, his father visited him after 6 or 7 months, and he was so glad, you know. And but of course, then he went to the gate, and I accompanied him. I was with him, and of course he was masks and all these, all the protection measures. But at the end, then he, of course, he wasn't able. Really, they were like at 1-2 meters distance, and you really could see, that they really longed to give each other a hug. But of course, that wasn't possible. So, but at the end, they spent 5 or 10 minutes, and he was so happy. It was beautiful to see. So, but
that gives an idea that social distancing, the changing of visitors, the not eating in the comedor, gives an idea of the measures you're taking to make sure they're safe. But one of the questions was, how do you assure the children of their safety, which is to me is a different question. So one is, how are you keeping them safe? I feel like you answered that. But the other is, how do you assure them that they're safe? And I wonder do you even need to do that? Because one of the things that I just loved about the kids so much that they taught me was how tough they were. Talking 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and just admiring that resilience and wanting to bring that home with me. Like, heck yeah, I'm going to give my nephew a machete because these kids are so tough. Do you need to assure them? Are they worried?
Well, it really, of course, and it depends a little bit on the interpretation of the question. So assuring, absolutely. What we do is that, we manage a strict policy. Nobody enters, nobody leaves the home, and if somebody enters that, who could have the coronavirus, he has to go in quarantine for 14 days straight, So for example, what we did also with the educators, if I might, is that, and they were so good for us, really. They completely understood the situation, and they said, okay, it really is a risk that we keep coming and keep leaving. So we really understand, and they are already here working for 2 straight months, Griffin, So, and that means that we only, since the outbreak, had one time there was this, there was the shift and the shift, one went out and the other came in, and that was everything. So, in terms of rotation, so what do you do to protect, or what do you assure? Well, we try to keep the virus out of the home by not letting entering people into the home. The other thing, of course, what you could say is that, also, of course, the products could be, infected or whatever. And we, for example, if you remember that when you enter in the gate, well, we have a guard there, and he is disinfecting everything, so that we assure that everything is clean when it enters, and in the bodega, in this case, or in the kitchen. So in that sense, we really try everything and do everything, to assure that they keep health, that they're being healthy at least.
So I want everybody to see what this looks like as Tom's sharing the comedor and talking about the gate, and if technical cooperations do persist and allow us to share, I want you to take us through a tour, Tom, because one thing you always told me when we were volunteers is just stop, listen to the birds, listen to the kids. And if you'll take us around and show us NPH Bolivia, I'd like to share that with everybody.
Well, it's you walk, I walk out of my door and I can see all kinds of, I can see all kinds of birds. Like the smell, of course, is the smell of the countryside. I hear birds, I hear animals. Of course, I also have to be aware of the fact that I'm not standing on a snake or something like that. That's also country life in Bolivia. Then you walk to the gate, and these days, last days were really beautiful. If you remember, the May and June days were a little bit colder here in Bolivia. So we were around now 20, 25 degrees. And so if I wake up, everything is kind of, it's a little bit fresh still, but the sun is up, and it's amazing. It's living beside. It's the most formal.
Well, let's prove it. Take it away.
So as one of the few NPH homes, we still have 4 volunteers in projects, communication, sponsorship, and teaching. And they live in this beautiful home. This is our clinic. Here we offer health care. Here are working our psychologists as well. And we here have some administrative positions. This is the office of our social worker. This is the office of our human resource professional. And here, these both offices are accountancy. Here in the corner is the office of the national director. And here we have some isolation rooms in case if we have patients directly here at the home. We have the offices of our psychologists. 1 and 2. Here is the office of our dentist. And these are the offices of the doctor and the nurse. C is one of our children in the year of service.
Hello, soy una chica que está haciendo su año de servicio y me tocó acá en la clínica y me tocó ayudarle a la enfermera y le estoy ayudando en lo que es control de temperatura y desinfectar a las personas que entran al hogar. Y bueno, para más adelante quiero estudiar fisioterapia.
Now we are at our on-site primary school. We have 40 students from our own home here and 25 students that come from the community. From our own boys and girls, more or less 30 go to secondary school here in San Ignacio. And also we have 14 students, university students, who study in Santa Cruz. So here we have from kindergarten till 6th grade. Also we have a computer room which was donated by the company of Cargill, and we have a library there. We're now at our baby's house. That's the home of our youngest children. The youngest one is 1, and the oldest one is 5 years old. And this is the park where they love to play. And they also love to play at the volleyball field. Here we are at the girls' side, being with the Estrellas, and with the girls from 6 until 9 more or less. Then we have from 9 until 12, 13, 14, Betania. Here we are at Angeles, more or less from 15, 16. And then behind Angeles, we have Maria Teresa, 17, 18. And then there is Mariana, which is the house, the only house here.
That was a good tour, Tom. That was the second best video tour there's ever been of NPH.
You want to say like yours was the best, isn't it?
I mean, if people want to search for it on YouTube and just type in NPH Bolivia, they can decide for themselves. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
Okay.
It makes me miss it so badly. And we have a number. We were supposed to go for those that were in our group through NPH USA through the Midwest office. Yes. We were supposed to go just actually part of this month too. And that does help, I guess, hold me over a little bit until the next time I can go. And so we'll talk about, because trips like mine aren't happening, we'll talk about some of those things that that people can do to help in a little bit. We'll give some different options depending on what's right for you as a listener, as an NPH supporter. We've gotten a couple questions, and some of them relate to questions that I wanted to ask you about what's going on. And our friend Andy Ross from PhotoCan wanted to ask, is the food supply chain been affected in Bolivia?
No, not really. The only thing is that we see that the prices are went up a little bit, but not dramatically. Not dramatically. So I have to say that I noticed that a lot of imported, for example, just for example, like peanut butter that you and I always used to eat, it's not available anymore. So it's just like
you say that, but there was never peanut butter in Bolivia. And for all the former Bolivia volunteers, put it in the comments if there was in fact peanut butter in Montero or Portachuelo, because there was no way we were ever getting peanut butter.
No, it was not in Portachuelo, it was in the Hypermax where you purchase it. But the rest, like I said.
So beyond peanut butter, the food supply chain is pretty intact. What are the biggest concerns that you're seeing around the Santa Cruz area?
Yeah, so to start with, the biggest concern, of course, we have is that we are really in the center, like I already said, of the outbreak. That means that, of course, like the workers are or workers are from all these places, Santa Cruz, from Montero, from Portachuelo, from Santa Rosa, even from, there is our case of coronavirus in Santa Rosa. So that means that we have to be really careful of also kind of, if we do our purchases, then, for example, we now go with a driver that lives outside of NPH, who lives outside of NPH, and then we literally bring the car outside of the gate with a entering in the car, and then if he comes back, we are disinfecting the car completely, and we're putting it back where it belongs, and also, like for example, we disinfect the stuff that we purchase. So all kinds of things that we do, like apart from that. We have seen, like you already said in the video, like it's been 4,000 cases at this moment, and testing is really not a big thing here. I mean, I think what I read in an article, and I think it was in the Economist, that on the 13th of May they were conducted 14,000 tests or something here in Bolivia. That really means that they belong to it's really the future of all the countries in the region. So yeah, what happens if we have more capacity? Are there more cases? We don't know. We think everybody thinks it. And also, for example, what I hear also from our doctor is that if people are sending their tests to the laboratories, it takes really long to really know the result. So apart from that, Griffin, I can tell you that, people, we are already for 67 days in a complete quarantine, in a complete lockdown here in Bolivia. And people are tired. People are tired. They have had their discipline for, 50, 60 days. And you and I know that, they don't have the position in which they can say, well, my boss is paying me.
That's
and,
right.
Everybody's living from the day, and they have to go on the street and they have to sell their stuff. So the dilemma is, okay, literally sometimes, okay, do I get problems from the coronavirus, or do I get problems from being hungry? And that's a, and also what we see, control in the streets, really also, well, the first 40, 50 days, the control on vehicles was quite strict. But there is not a big control anymore. So that means that there is officially we are still in the quarantine, but actually people are living their lives like normal. And like I said, Santa Cruz really has to look if it can get its own strategy, because Santa Cruz has 67% of all cases, and they are looking to Europe, they're looking to the United States. And they have some proposals, but at the same time, we really have to look at if that's, if that's something that the country can do or that the department can do.
And that challenge is hard for people in rich countries, all the more in countries where there isn't a government stimulus coming down. There isn't a treasury or a central bank that can just bail out a lot of these businesses. I think that problem is even more acute in Bolivia. So you've talked about how this is affecting the finances. This trickles down to the personnel and how they live their lives. What would you say are the biggest needs for you all? How does this phase materially in the form of what you all need?
Yeah, so what we really need at this point are, face masks, like the good ones, I think it's N95. What we need are, in case if we have like a mild case of coronavirus, for example, we need suits, these body suits. And they are really expensive in Bolivia, like you really pay like easily $20 per suit. So that's what we really need money for. We haven't, well, of course we didn't budget that. Like I said, like the increase in the prices, of course we are spending extra. We need money for that. And also what we really need are, of course, like we need to invest in extra fruits and vegetables in order to keep the children healthy. And I think that's the most important thing. Like these three things I would consider to be the most important.
So I want to encourage people as they're thinking, oh, I got the hookup on N95 masks, or I got the hookup on PPE. It's not like you can just send that down to NPH Bolivia. One, even in good times, that's extremely cost ineffective and ends up wasting a lot more when people do sometimes have that inclination to help. But it just doesn't work that way. And especially now, because even pre-corona, I think Bolivia all but got rid of their post office. So that type of thing generally isn't available. There are different ways that people can help. So if that's what you're thinking of, you're thinking of the needs that Tom had, you're thinking of how this is affecting the general operations budget, you can make a larger donation. You would do that through your office. So we've got people from Canada, Europe, New Zealand, and the United States on. You would make that through your country's office if you wanted to make a larger donation. If that's not in the cards for you right now, there are other ways. Some other ways are you can become an NPH godparent. We have many NPH godparents on the show right now, and that's when you sponsor a child and you sometimes do some correspondence and you're contributing monthly, allocated based on a child. So I have a poll question here, which is, do you have a godchild at NPH Bolivia? And I think this will be running. Meg will share the results when it's done, but we want to ask people, do you have a godchild at NPH Bolivia? Yes, no, or no, but you'd love to. And there might be folks with other people. There might be other folks on board that have godchildren at other NPH homes. So that's available at almost all of the NPH offices. And then there's another option that right now is unique to the NPH USA office, which is the home sponsorship. And this is a way of, it's called the Mi Casa sponsorship. And instead of sponsoring an individual child, you're sponsoring the home. And that only starts at $30 a month. So for the folks on here that are thinking, well, I'd love to make a larger donation, but that's not in the cards for me right now. Maybe you want to be a godparent. Sometimes for those folks that maybe they don't want to do the individual correspondence, you can sponsor the home for as little as $30 a month. And that goes such a long way as we start to mount up people, especially because we don't have the big events like the gala. We don't have trips like mine where I was going to take 13 people down, and inevitably we make a donation when we go down. Those types of things aren't happening. So those are ways that you can help. And then finally, if it just isn't in the cards for you, sharing the message of NPH, if you would share it with a child, that's a way that you can support our family. So you can make a large donation through your local NPH office. You can support a godchild, sponsoring a godchild, becoming a godparent. You can do a home sponsorship through the Mi Casa opportunity, or you can share NPH with a friend. And we really appreciate you doing all of that. So we want to go into some questions, but first I've got another question for you, which is, are you interested in visiting NPH Bolivia one day? We got the yes, no, and maybe, and I am curious because you can come with me or you can maybe go on another trip, but I promise you, as soon as we're able to do trips again, yours truly is going to take a group down, and I can't wait till that happens. So I'm curious for those folks that if they are interested, if you'd answer that poll, and I'll share those results with you. I see through the chat we had a couple people that have been there. Want to ask some questions that we've gotten from the community, and our poll results are back. We've had I don't know how many we had, but apparently 2/3 of our folks on the call have been to Bolivia and NPH Bolivia, and another quarter of the respondents said they might like to go. So I hope that you get to see what we saw in that video in person, because there's nothing like it. We got some questions in the chat and in the Q&A, and I want to go over those. Some of the questions have to do with how social distancing is affecting the kids. We know the kids love to play. They love to greet visitors. They love to greet each other. And so what has that been like?
Yeah, like I said, they have contact with each other. So like per home, they are together. The only thing is, for example, if I am in like a boys' home from 5 years, then I can go to my sister in the girls' home from 9 years, for example. So that's something that's also good. How is that affecting them? I think it's affecting them. So it's also really important to explain why we began with the encapsulation, because at one point, like a few weeks ago, we had some people that we thought, okay, now the driver entered the property, the other, like this person entered the property, and this person, and they weren't in, and they hadn't been in quarantine. So like with that, the explosion of the amount of cases, and then we decided we have to take some like more strict measures. So it's also good to know that this isn't going to last forever, of course. We really, if we, for example, ensure that the people who are now on the property are there for 15 days, we can stop the encapsulation and, live like more as normal again. Of course, trying to maintain the social distancing a little bit. We also purchase face masks for everybody of them. So, for example, if they go to the central dining hall, to the comedor, then they can go there with their face mask, and of course they can have contact. So, like I said, it's not the idea that it's going to last forever, the encapsulation.
I've got a couple questions about education, so I'm morphing it into one question. Some is, how are the kids continuing their education? Are any of them still going to classroom settings? Are they getting any kind of online course or any material sent home? Are there tutors? How are you making up for that differential in education right now?
Yeah, so yeah, this is something that is not a difficult point, but of course, like the kids are like, it's already for 2 months that they're not going to classes. So they are for now, for like almost 1 month, 3 weeks, the professors are in contact with the POs and PS, with the educators via WhatsApp. So what they're doing, they're sending videos, like videos per WhatsApp to the POs and PS, and like this, and that's the way they're working. So the POs and PS are showing it to the kids, and they're working then, like they're doing their tarea, their task, and their homework. And then, for example, the next day, okay, you did it well, do this better. That's the way they're working. Like really, of course, it's really improvisation. But at the same time, we have to do something, because as you know as well, our internet is not that stable, like already was said at the beginning of the webinar, that we can host a professor like maybe is being done in the United States or in Europe. People are really kind of starting to get used to the whole concept of working at home. You know, it's called here teletrabajo, and in the whole school system as well. So, for example, the next week, the teachers are going to have some workshops about how they can do that. So it's really because of the whole crisis.
How about the college students? For those that aren't familiar, most of our college students attend university in the city of Santa Cruz, which is more or less 2.5 hours away by public-ish transport. And so the boys have a house there, the girls have a house there.
Yeah.
And so what about them?
No, they do have. They do have. They have what they call clases en línea.
A question that isn't related to education, but I want to ask about is, Frank Donahue asked, what's your, other than COVID-19, I think this is a great question, other than coronavirus, what is your biggest worry when you wake up each morning?
Good question, Frank. Apart from COVID, well, the budget question, of course, like the aftermath of the whole coronavirus thing. That's my biggest concern at this moment. Really, the biggest concern that I have is that at one point we might not be able to take care of the kids as we do at this moment. So, yeah, that's my biggest concern. And I really, it's just something that,
We've had a couple questions about political unrest, and for those that weren't familiar, Bolivia is mostly a politically stable country. I guess that might be subjective depending on who you're talking to. But for the last 15 years, there had been one president, a 3-term president, mostly stable. Some things called bloqueos, which are people protesting in the road that don't allow transport to pass through. But that's almost always nonviolent. And then recently, during the last election, which was leading up to the last election, which was supposed to be in the fall, there was a lot of unrest, and ultimately that president was ousted, and an interim president from the opposition came into to party. And so we just want to, without talking about politics, want to just ask about what that unrest has been like since, because it was unrest for a while. And I know you were a bit nervous, and they sent the American volunteers home for a little bit. The U.S. State Department raised it to level 3 or 4, went back to 2. From everyone that I've talked to, things seem really calm. Has this agitated that again? Are things still calm? What's that like?
Well, like in general, I saw a poll, and I saw that, like in general, people are quite satisfied about also how Yanina Áñez is leading this crisis. But of course, they search for like the opposite party, like the socialistic party from the former president Evo Morales. Of course, they are searching for things that he does wrong, or that.
Do you see that? Do you see that? Is it having an effect in the streets? Is it like,
no.
or is there the tension that there was before?
No, absolutely not. No, it's everything is coronavirus at this point. Maybe at some places, like in Cochabamba or in El Alto, La Paz, maybe a little bit more. Here in Santa Cruz, we don't see anything of that.
So we're starting to wrap up, but and I kind of want to end with this, right? I guess if I were to conclude with a question, it would be, what do you think the kids miss the most? What do they tell you that they miss the most?
Colegio. Going to school. That's what they miss the most.
Spoken like really good kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds like
it's like that. And maybe that might represent like, colegio, going to school. That might represent like going back to normal life, So, but that's what they tell me. Like, what are you missing the most? It's colegio, going to colegio.
Awesome.
Hey, Molly.
Hi. we are coming up on our time. I'm sorry to interrupt. We had such a great conversation, or you guys had a great conversation. We were able to listen in. So Tom and Griffin, thank you so much for opening up our Bolivia home to all of us and sharing the updates and just sharing some really fun stories. I've learned a lot about Bolivia. I'm really excited to go and visit as soon as we can. I also would like to thank our behind the scene folks who are producing this episode. We have Meg Brockman, Nick Rogers, Gia Riney, and Lauren Sullivan. Just a big thank you. This is really great. And if you would like to support NPH Bolivia, please visit our website at nphusa.org and click on Mi Casa in the upper right-hand side. Or if you are in New Zealand, you can visit their website at nph-newzealand.org. Additionally, if you'd like to sign up for episode number 3, you will get a registration link very soon, tomorrow, I believe. And episode number 3 is an open home visit to El Salvador. We're going to close out tonight with a very short video, and then please stay on to take our survey to help make our series event even better. Again, big thanks to Tom and Griffin. Really appreciate your time. Everyone take care and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for coming. I appreciate you so much, and thanks for supporting NPH in whichever way you can.
Thank you.